Hi, everybody. Diane Canada here, and we are live. Happy Tuesday. What is it like to grow up in a country in Marxism? I've wondered that. We have a Marxist agenda trying to take root in our young people here in America, and I just wonder if they know what they're agging on. We're going to explore this in detail today. I'm going to introduce you to someone who actually grew up in a Marxist nation. So join me back here in just a second, and hold on tight because we're in for a great show today.
Now's the time for faith. I will praise your holy name, even when my whole world falls apart. Father, your light shines brighter in the dark.
I've often talked on this show about how important it is for those of you in your communities to speak directly with someone who's grown up in a socialist or a communist regime. And we have so many people here in America that are very, very happy to speak with us about it. You're going to meet one of them today. But I thought that it would be important for us first to identify what's going on in our country. As I mentioned earlier, we've got young people on college campuses, coming into the workplace right now, and even those still in high school that are really on board with Marxist policies. And they are ushering this in at rapid speed. So let's define what it is. I mean, we hear about, Karl Marx, and I think a lot of us know bits and pieces about what it is. But I want to just play a quick video for you here before we bring on my guest today. And let's see what we're dealing with. Here you go.
Born in Trier, Germany in 1818, Marx didn't invent communism, but it was on his ideas that Lenin and Stalin built the Soviet Union, Mao built communist China, and innumerable other tyrants, from the Kims in North Korea to the Castros in Cuba, built their communist regimes. Ultimately, those regimes and movements calling themselves Marxist murdered about 100 million people and enslaved more than 1 billion. Marx believed that workers, specifically those who did manual labor, were exploited by capitalists, the people who owned, as Marx put it, the means of production, specifically factories, but who did very little physical labor themselves. Only a workers' revolution, Marx wrote in Das Kapital, could correct this injustice. What would that revolution look like? Marx and his collaborator Friedrich Engels spelled it out point by point in the Communist Manifesto. It included the abolition of property and inheritance, and the centralization of credit, communication, and transport in the hands of the state, and a lot more along the same lines. In other words, the state owns and controls pretty much everything. Wherever Marx's ideas were practiced, life got worse, not by a little, but by a lot. There is not a single exception to this rule. Wherever Marxism goes, economic collapse, terror, and famine follow. So, if cataclysmic failure, meaning terrible human suffering, is the inevitable legacy of Marxism, why do so many people, and now especially young people, defend it? The most common answer Marxism's advocates offer is that they, whoever they are, Lenin, Stalin, Chavez, never really practiced Marxism. They all somehow got it wrong. Marxism, we are told, is, at its essence, about sharing what we have, from each according to his ability to each according to his needs, as Marx put it. Maybe that sounds good to you, but what does it mean? Who determines ability? Who determines need? The answer is the state, the ruling elite. Under Marxism, that's who has all the power. His ends could be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. All existing social conditions. That's religion, family, personal possessions, freedom, and democracy. They all had to go in order to achieve Marx's vision of an earthly paradise. But since few people give up their liberties and property voluntarily, creating a Marxist state has always required guns, prisons, and summary executions.
Yeah, that's scary stuff. Today you're going to meet Daniela, who grew up in Marxist Romania. And just to give you an idea of where that is, I have a map here for you. So Romania sits next door to Ukraine. It's kind of down here near Turkey, Bulgaria. The Italian coast here is just a short jog over from there. But this is the area where she is from. And for those of you who may not know, Romania actually started out as a monarchy. It had gained independence from the Ottoman Empire in 1877. King Michael was the last one in charge before they fell under the great pressure and the force of the Soviet Union during World War II. So Romania was occupied by Soviet troops from around 1944. That's when it became a satellite of the USSR. And then the Socialist Republic of Romania was a Marxist, Leninist, one-party communist state that existed officially in Romania from 1947 until 1989, modern day 1989. That was 42 years of this terrorist regime ruling over these poor people in Romania. Currently now, because of the overthrow of Nicolae, I'm going to botch this maybe, but Ceausescu, I think that's how you say it. He was there from 1967. He was overthrown in 1989 during their revolution. So currently right now, the political framework is a semi-presidential representative democratic republic. They have a prime minister, they have a president, but it is no longer communist, thank God. But Daniela has been in the States now for 18 years. She and I had a really enlightening conversation the other day, and I just wanted to invite her to come on the show and share in that conversation with you, because I think so many people need to hear this message. I think it's going to be a powerful one. So if you would help me welcome to the show, Daniela. Hi, Daniela. How are you?
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Your presence here today is so important. I think that the insights you're going to be able to share with people are going to really resonate. So I'd like to, first of all, just kind of get a sense from you of what you feel when you see some of these things that I was just playing. You know, the Marxism trying to take root here in America. I want to go into in a minute kind of what a day in your life was like, you know, growing up. But how do you feel right now as people are really entertaining this dangerous ideology?
Very sad, man. That's it's actually a great grief to me. It's very emotional just to even think about it. I have a hard time believing that young kids in this great country, they want to give up their freedom to a Marxist agenda. They have no clue, no idea what is coming. And that's why I come to your show today to express those things that they're to come. I mean, it's not going to be an easy path for those people. They need to understand that once the government takes over their lives, they will never be able to have their freedoms again. So that's why I want to warn everybody, the young generation especially, and the mid generation. A lot of people, even my age, they kind of think, oh, it's an okay thing to just kind of dip into these waters, but it's not. It's a very dangerous road to go on. And they speak and they want that out of not knowing what is coming. I can't hear you, Diane. Hello.
So sorry about that. I had my mute on. It almost reminds me of kind of a black widow kind of, luring people into a web, because what I find when I'm researching this, Daniela, is that the reason that young minds are, being seduced by this idea, or even like you said, it's not always the young. Sometimes it is people more in our age group and all. But I think what I'm seeing is that the reason they're being seduced into it is because they feel like there are fundamental human advantages or benefits that they should have just because they live in this country. They should have access to free healthcare. They should have access to affordable housing. These are all things that every citizen in America should have. They say we're the richest country in the world and we can afford to take care of our people. And so these are things that we just have a right to have. So these are the arguments that I hear that kind of like I said, seduce them into this socialist, which eventually leads to these Marxist ideas. But I want to just talk with you because I want to go down a list of questions, if I can, with you today and ask you if these actually came true for you in a Marxist nation. When we talk about free healthcare, for instance, how did that play out for you in Romania?
Well, thankfully, at the time when Romania was a communist country, I was very young, and I didn't need that much healthcare at the time. But I know from older folks, from my family, that going to a doctor at the time, it's like how to go to an emergency room and wait to be seen by a doctor for 7-8 hours to just wait in an emergency room.
Wow.
Just sit there and in pain and suffering. I mean, people that will die before actually will see a doctor. If you are over 65 or 70 years old and you call the ambulance, they wouldn't even come to get you because they will say you're too old, you're not used to our community, you're out.
Oh my God.
So yes, and not to mention the way the hospitals and the lack of equipment and medications, and I mean they won't even look at you, doctors, nurses, you go in there because I'm telling you, once the communists they take over, they control everything, and they're so corrupt. They're so corrupt that it's no end. I mean, it goes from one thing to another, and nobody really cares about a person anymore. I mean, those people, they become really ruthless. This is what's happening. We kind of see now, well, right here with the mask situation and all that. You can see the tyranny coming out of people. Some people, not everybody, but yeah. So yeah, this is how I remember those days.
Wow. So the idea, I mean, the idea of us handing over all of our liberties, putting all of our trust in a government, basically what people are saying, in exchange for these securities, in exchange for these benefits, that's excuse my French, but that's a hell of a lot of trust to put into a government, and hoping and just expecting that they're not going to be corrupt, that yes, they're going to divvy everything out, equally. Yes, they're going to be fair. And in every case in Marxist nations, that it couldn't have been further from the truth. That is not how it played out. No. Let's talk about elections, because you shared some things with me in our private conversation around the election process. And I'd love to just have a little more information from you on how your elections played out. Was there mail-in voting? Was there ballots? What exactly happened in your nation?
Well, it's funny because in your introduction, we have the King Michael, that Romania was a kingdom before the communists they took over, and the election we have free elections, but the communists they stole our elections in 1946. They stole our elections, kind of what happened today in our country in America, because I consider United States my country now. And once they took over, they pretty much control everything. That's why I'm really concerned of what's going on today in this country, because once they take over, there will never be a free election again. They will control everything. We were from then on for 40 years full communism. The people, they go to vote, but they will not go to vote for president. President was set in stone. Ceausescu was not even on the ballot. There were his puppets that they will be on the ballot. Yes, but there will be people that'll be going to elections, but it doesn't even matter. I mean, there was just a fictive, kind of like a fake kind of type of voting system, because they will put their people in place, and they'll be the ones who will vote. I mean, it's not people that had no control over the voting system, let me put it that way, the population.
Did they disarm you?
Yes.
Did you have guns?
Well, we did. I don't think so. I don't. What happened? They when the communists took over, they took everything from the people. So if people that have land, farms, properties, people that have own castles in Romania, they have their
Mhm.
house to own your own little castle. That was nice. They came and they took over. They took it away. And if you dare to actually protest, they will. I mean, they throw people in jail and kill them. There was not an argument to be made. I mean, there was not a legal system to fight or anything like that. There's nothing you can say about it. They will just take
Wow.
it away. You have animals, you have cattle, whatever it was. All the government, they took it, they socialized everything. They put it in one big pile, one big pot that was conducted by the government, and
Mhm.
was nothing people they can do about it. So they couldn't really fight that. Whoever tried, the intelligent people that they tried to fight that, they put them in jail, and they cut them off from life.
Mm, my gosh. Yeah, it doesn't sound like utopia to me. Not by any rate, but not by any
Yeah.
stretch. What about, talk to me about what food, what did you have rations? Were, like, when it came to food or resources,
Yes.
were you told how much you were
Mhm.
allowed to have? And tell me about what that was like.
So, for example, yes, we have ration. Everything was rationalized at that time. I mean, so for a family, I was a single child. So we have a family of 3 people in my household. And the government will decide for you how many you have. You're allowed 2 liters of milk per week. Oil, to cook with oil, there was like maybe a half liter of oil per week. You have a little card, a punch card, and you will go to the grocery store, who they were always empty, so there was nothing in there to buy.
Oh,
Kind of like Costco after coronavirus hit, like empty
yeah.
shelves. So people,
Wow.
even if you have money to buy, there would be nothing to buy. So
Mm,
there'll be this rationalized flour, oil. I mean, essentials, bread, milk. Um, let's say chicken meat, cheese. Those are luxuries foods at the time. I
wow.
mean, you had to stay in line for hours. So I remember as a child, my grandfather will take me at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we will see the lines up to 12 hours to get like a small little piece of cheese. There will be a half pound of cheese or a pound of cheese for 2 people that they see, because it's always portions. You couldn't, so they will try to to spread it to as much as possible to as many people as possible. You will sit hours to get a chicken, something that American people will never even comprehend what actually not having food to eat is. It's not because people, they didn't have the money, they couldn't afford it. It's just there was nowhere there, because it was controlled by the government. Everything was
Mm.
controlled by the government. How much you
Yeah.
eat, how much you are allowed to owe, you can't, how much, where you going, what you doing. Everything was controlled by the government. You couldn't talk, you couldn't travel, you couldn't, it's just yes. So everything
Wow.
was rationalized, to answer your question as it is.
I'm,
People, they
I'm
stood in a long lines to get just the essentials that, yeah.
that we just
So.
take for granted. We can. Well, I was doing a show last week, and
uh,
I was talking about this. How there was a picture of a produce department in the middle of the winter in New York, and it was just full, full. And this is because of free
mhm,
markets. This is because we have free trade, and we can
right.
import things, and so we always have a variety, a smorgasbord at our fingertips when we walk into our grocery store. So yes, I think people can relate. Like, just when the pandemic hit, how everybody went and raided the shelves, or they do that here in Tennessee when a storm's coming.
Yeah.
And yes, so that's what
Right.
that's what you're
That's
talking
right.
about, the contrast between full, big, beautiful produce departments and
Right.
fully stocked shelves, and now being going in and it's just like
think of,
almost like picked apart. Yeah, it's awful. I'm so sorry that you had to.
think
I
about
appreciate you sharing this.
fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Yes.
It breaks my heart that you had to live through this, and you're very. I'm sure this is hard for you to talk about, but I think people need to hear this. They need to hear what is coming if we don't stop this. If we don't stop it.
Right. This needs to be
So
stopped.
you just mentioned that there were limitations on where you could travel or what you could say. Was there censorship in the Marxist
Yes,
nation?
very, very much so. Yes. So, often I tell my friends, my American friends here, I said, think about the censorship or people telling on each other back then. It's like you work in the office and you really have to watch out what you're talking, who you're talking to, what are you talking about. Dare you not to say anything against the communists at that time, because you could risk actually going to jail. They'll pick you up right there in the office and put you right in jail, and they'll
Is
probably
that
your family
right?
will never see you again.
Oh
Yes,
my gosh.
absolutely right.
So I didn't think
Yes,
about that. So
absolutely right.
yes. So you're talking about just in
Yes,
normal conversations you would have with people, you could be
normal
arrested.
conversations in your colleagues, your fellow colleagues that they work with you in the office. I mean, and I often tell them, like, back then was not even the technology that we have today.
Yeah. Wow.
Now they can watch you through your phone, your TV, whatever. I mean, I'm not that big on technology, but I know that there are ways to do it very, very easy. They track you with your GPS system in your car or your phone or whatever. Back then there was nothing like that, but they were still they knew everything what everybody was doing. I mean, they were having people paid by the militia at the time, or security. They call the security of the time, and they will have people that they were implanted into the factories, the companies, whatever companies. They were factories pretty much at that time. We didn't have many companies and stuff like that, but they were infiltrated there, paid by the Communist Party just to listen and to pass on what's going on and who's who, and if they're trying to start up a coup or something to take the Communist Party down.
So they would plant people, basically, is what you're saying. They would plant people kind of undercover almost in these organizations
Yes.
to try to win trust
Yep.
and then report those people. Wow. Talk to me about what it was like in the education system. And was there indoctrination going on in the education system?
Well, so growing up in Romania, indoctrination, you are indoctrinated. You go there, you're already indoctrinated. You don't know as a child anything better than that. So it's not like me telling my children now, what indoctrination is. You go there and you have Ceausescu's painting on or picture on your wall, and you sing the communist song in the morning. Everybody was wearing uniforms, and you have a little number on your shoulder there, to make sure that they know who you are, to pick you up or something if you're in trouble. I don't know if you chew gum or those are like the things that the kids that were doing back then. So yeah, indoctrination was big time. I mean, everything, all the subjects in school, they were about communism. I mean, for example, if you do English class, the lessons there will be about how great communism is. Wow. If you do a French class, there will be, how great the president Ceausescu is. If we were having, like, we have parades. We had to go to the parades of this guy right here that you put on the screen, Ceausescu. We had to go. It doesn't matter the age, children, parents, everybody. I mean, I'll go with my school, and then my mom and dad, they will go with their work. They have to parade, and you are forced to clap and praise that guy right there, that evil man. And to praise them. So there was all propaganda, and how they're saying how great the communism is, and not to mention, as a child, we didn't have no sweets and no the variety of things that children they have here. I mean, because we're talking about rations, and I'm going back a little bit. We didn't have anything. I mean, chocolate was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
Gum, just think about just the ordinary gum. I mean, we didn't have
Yeah.
chewing gum. We didn't have that. There was nothing. We didn't have, you know, we're going like they were rationing the power, the water. You have the hot water and the power at just certain hours. Then the TV was all propaganda. So you get the power when you get to watch the TV, and the propaganda goes through the TV and tells you how great communism is and how great Ceausescu is. You think about cartoons or something like that. There was nothing about children watching movies or cartoons or nothing like that. The only thing actually we watched back then, and I'm amazed how they even give it, was Dallas was a big deal as a child. We watched. That's the only American movie that they let us watch, and it was amazing. So I still
Wow.
love it now. Yeah, but
Wow.
yeah, with
Wow. Could you
coming
could
back from
you
school, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Walking back from school, if you have evening classes, we had no power. So we're living in apartment buildings, and you have to walk upstairs. You go up the stairs for 10 floors in a pitch black. You had to have we had a little candle in our hands or a flashlight, and we'll go all by ourselves all the way 10 floors, because that was my parents that lived at a 10th floor apartment building. And I had to go with 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening. You walk in a pitch black building all the way up the stairs because the power was off. I mean, talking about ration, and
My gosh.
AOC, she's already talking that we're consuming too much energy and stuff like that. So that's
Yeah.
coming
Wow.
out here.
You've painted such an incredible picture of what it was like. We hear people talk about it, but I think it's so critical to just sit and make the comparisons to what we have here in our everyday life compared to what you grew up without, there. And so thank you for painting that picture. I mean, there's so much I would love to ask you. I think we probably are going to go a little over our 30 minutes today just because this is so important. But I would love to know things like, were you allowed to travel? And if so, were there curfews or were there only certain places you could go? Tell me about that.
So you were allowed to travel only on the inside of your country, so Romania. So we're allowed to travel into only Romania. You're not allowed to have any contacts with the Western side of the world. That was totally forbidden, was against the law. You could get arrested and thrown in jail because of that. We were allowed to travel into the communist part the countries that they were part of the communist bloc at the time, like Russia, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia at the time. Well, actually, they were kind of communist, but they didn't really let us go there. I don't think so. But it was Hungary, Poland, and Czech Republic, and the east part of Germany. There were the countries that they were allowed to travel. That's it. That's pretty much it.
Wow. Were you allowed to go to church?
But you were not allowed to have contact. You're not allowed to have contacts. I think I repeat myself, but yeah, you're not allowed to have contacts with people in the United States or something like that. They will listen to your phone calls. They will track you down. You are not allowed to. If they'll catch you with $1 American, you will get thrown in jail. You're not allowed to own any kind of money like that. No.
Wow. Yeah. Golly.
Lockdown.
Lockdown. Yeah. I'm curious too. Were you allowed to attend church?
Some, but they were very not so much like people that they were in the army at the time or anything that they do with the security of the country. They were not allowed to go to church. So
really, wow.
They were very monitored. The churches, they were very monitored.
Wow.
They don't allow people to just go there and gather like big groups and stuff.
Wow. I'm just so taken back by so much of what you're saying. And I want to play this clip real quick because I think it's important for people to understand why young people are being, again, seduced into this idea of socialism, which becomes this Marxist idea and a lot of this communist ideology. So just listen to this for a minute, and let's hear straight from the young people on why they're being seduced. Here we go.
You may have heard the kids are getting radical, at least compared to older voters. Among Americans 18 to 34, socialism is viewed more positively than capitalism. In the 2020 presidential election, 54% of Democratic voters under 30 back Bernie Sanders, a Democratic socialist.
You don't expect like a bunch of like young socialists to be in the middle of Tennessee, but I think we're like one of the biggest political clubs on campus.
It's about Southern socialism, so this is to raise awareness that, you know, there are leftist movements in red states.
When we fight, we win! When we fight, we win!
Radical, extreme, far-left socialists have now taken over.
The Democratic Party today is a radical socialist party.
What do you say to people who say you're radical?
I don't think it's radical to believe that everyone should have access to health care. I don't think it's radical to believe people can have free access to college. That happens in European states. So no, I don't believe I'm radical.
Many of the students we talked to at the conference said watching their parents struggle as they grew up is what drew them to Sanders.
I come from an immigrant family. I've seen my parents work so hard for things that should have been afforded to them as soon as they got here, things like Medicare, things like affordable housing, things like access to secondary education.
My sister and I did not have health care for a long time, so I remember growing up just knowing I wouldn't be able to go to the doctor if I needed to.
My dad the other day actually, he was like, why do you support Bernie Sanders? He supports Donald Trump. I asked my dad, when's the last time you've had health care? He said, I have never had health care. And he's almost 60 years old. At the end, I just said, Dad, I support Bernie Sanders because I support you.
Your reaction, Daniela?
Oh, my reaction first, when I hear the free college, these kids, they have no idea that it's a price to pay for everything. Nothing is free. So my message to them when it comes to free college, knowing what happened to our students in Romania, yes, the schooling was free. Universities, they're free. But when you get the diploma and you get to go and practice your doctor, you become a doctor, you go practice, they will tell you where to go. And they will send you in a place that you probably didn't hear in your life about it. Some village somewhere in the middle of nowhere where you will wear rubber boots up to your hips to make it to work. Or you go with a carriage and with the horses, and those people, they're, probably they study, those kids, they study in capital, in the Bucharest, capital of the country, or big cities in Romania, and they never expected to go there. But this is what happened. You're the hand of the government. They'll tell you exactly what to do. So yeah, this is what they got from the free college. They tell them what to do and where to go and how to work and what to work.
Yeah.
And
yeah, when he was talking about
healthcare, same thing.
Yeah. yeah, the healthcare.
Healthcare, yeah.
What are they trading for that?
You take care of yourself. Yeah, you take care of yourself before you actually go to the doctor, because so many people, they died on just the hospital corridors just before even they see the doctor, because they will be always shortage of doctors, shortage of equipment, shortage of medication, no room, shortage of everything, like no beds. I mean, I cannot even describe you the rooms in a hospital. They were like disgusting. You couldn't even, think about mold on the walls and water running and black and just, it's just rust in the toilet and the surgery room. I mean, there was just a disgusting situation altogether. So I wouldn't even go. I don't know, do nothing in those hospitals. I mean, you got to pray hard that you never get sick
My God.
to get
And
to their
this is
hands.
it's so consistent with what I've heard and all this research I've done is that, the exchange when you take away incentives for people, then that's when things just start going downhill. When doctors are no longer incentivized to become doctors, why are they going to put in all of that extra time and education? So you say the shortage of doctors, the shortage of
Absolutely.
healthcare. Why are they going to care about sanitary conditions and all of that if there's not competition among hospitals? And I mean, all of this, go back and watch some of my previous shows, guys, because I've been covering this a lot over the last couple of weeks. But this is the trade-off for the free. Like Daniela just so eloquently said, nothing is free. There are trade-offs. So the beauty now I'd love to get into as we start to wrap the show up today is I want to share with the people what happened. The Marxist regime was overthrown in 1989. And I would like to read an excerpt from the Bucharest Broadcasting House. This was the day after the overthrow. This was how they reported on the event. And if it's okay with you, Daniela, I'd like to show people some pictures from that time period if it won't upset you too much. Would that be okay?
You absolutely, you go right ahead, please, Diane. People,
All
they
right.
need to be informed and see.
Okay. All right. So here's what happened, guys. The Soviet parliament expressed its approval after the overthrow of the fall of the President Ceausescu and sent to the Romanian people a special message of support proposed by President Gorbachev. The message was apparently sent on the understanding that Mr. Ceausescu had been arrested. The great Ceausescu escape attempt came after it had become clear that most of the army had gone over to the people. So the army sided with the people. The defense minister, General Malaya, was said to have committed suicide. By 6 p.m., Romanian television was broadcasting live reports of victory rallies attended by thousands in Bucharest. A voice in the studio said that the army was wholly on the side of the people. All strategic points in the country were said to be under the control of the people. The streets and squares of Bucharest were littered with torn portraits and shattered busts of the president and his wife. The atmosphere was one of jubilation, and the overriding feeling among the thousands celebrating in the city center before the shooting began was one of undiluted triumph. A caretaker government was announced within an hour of the dictator's capture. Its provisional leader was a 73-year-old foreign minister, Mr. Manesco. I think that's how you pronounce it, maybe. One of the first acts of the new leadership was to
Manesco, yes.
Manesco. Okay. One of the first acts of his new leadership was to place the security forces, the dreaded Securitate, under control of the army. 1 in 4 of the population is believed to have been a member. The day began as it ended, with vehement anti-Ceausescu demonstrations. Tens of thousands of people gathered in the early hours in front of the Intercontinental Hotel in Bucharest, undeterred, this is so key, undeterred by armored vehicles. Machine guns splattered against a background of church bells ringing in triumph.
Beautiful. There was a wonderful day. I remember that day. I was 14, but I will never forget that day. There was a special day for our country, and it was jubilation. It was jubilation. People, they start to have hope again, because you don't have hope on the communists. You can't have hope on the communists. You can't. You have no vision of future on the communism.
I can't imagine what it was like to live that. It's one thing to report on it. It's one thing to research it, but to actually have lived it. Thank God you're here in America now. Thank God you can pour into your children as a mother.
Thank you. Yes.
And that you can teach your children. Mm-hmm. How are you with your children? What do you tell them? And how do you teach them how to appreciate freedom when they don't know what it's like to live without it like you did?
Well, I always tell them that they're very blessed to live in this wonderful country. America is a great country to live in. I visit a lot of countries in my life, and America is the greatest land of all to live and to raise your family and to be here. So I always try to remember them, I mean, to tell them that they're really blessed to live here, and they don't miss anything. And if they have no idea what it is to live in a controlled country by the government. And I tell them never ever in their life to give in their freedom. Often even now with the situation with the masks and stuff like that, my son, he's asking me when I'm going to the stores because I will not comply with the mask. It's because I know it's a government control. It's not a health crisis. It's not a health crisis. It's just a government control. And Levi, my son, he asked me, Mom, why you'll not comply? I said, I can't. Son, I can't. This is going deeper than what these people they tell us that it is. This is control of my life that I will never accept. Because I value my freedom. This is freedom that we cannot give up. We cannot give up this freedom. So no matter what, we have to keep our freedom. And I tell them, keep your freedom, guys, and know that you live in a great country. This America is the best country in the world. And because of our judicial Christian values, America, it is the greatest country in the world. So we can't give it all this rights. We can't let it go.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that would be the message to America then right now is we can't let it go.
Yes.
And we've got, I hope now that the ladies that are watching our show today, and maybe some men out there too, I hope that now you have a better understanding of what the consequences of this Marxist ideology is, and hearing it straight from someone who's lived it. I hope now that you'll be able to more confidently and in more depth be able to go into these discussions in your communities, because Daniela, what we're trying to do here is not create a whole, big activist movement. What we're trying to do is empower people to just have brave conversations in their communities with the people they encounter every day, and being able to speak from a place of love and compassion, and not be evoking and reiterating more fear out there, but to just speak with truth and win people back to conservative values and win people back to the founding ideas of our country and keeping people from straying from them. So I'll just give you, before we pray over everyone today, I just want to give you a chance to have the last word. Is there anything else you'd like to share with viewers today?
What I would like to share, especially with the young kids of today, that is no free lunch. Someone has to work for whatever they are gaining, and do not give up your freedom. Do not buy into the media propaganda. Do not let them take your freedom away, because once it's gone, it's going to be a long time before you get it back, if you get it back. Yeah. So that's my message, and this is what I would like to let them know. I want to warn them.
Yeah.
Because we can't just let go and let them think that it's communism or Marxism. It's a good thing. Socialism, it's a good thing. I mean, I told a guy, it's just a short little message I'm having here, but I told a guy in a parking lot at Whole Foods a while ago when he was having a Sanders sign. I said, he said, socialism is great. I said, do you know what communism is? He told me, no, this is socialism. I said, no, socialism, it's pretty much communism with a big red bow in it. It's just a nice name for it.
That's so good. Yeah.
And your children will pay for that. So this is my message, and this is what I would like to leave people with, that we can't give up, and we cannot let our freedom be gone. We have to
Yeah.
hold on to our freedom with our dear life.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here in your show today, because I want to pass this message to all the people out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Daniela. Thank you so much for bravely sharing your experience and for so eloquently warning people. I'd like to end today in prayer, if we could, and I just hope that this has been a blessing to those of you watching. If we can, let's just go to God in prayer. Father, we know that as a nation founded in Judeo-Christian principles, that our only hope of a sustainable future is for us to return to you, Lord, so that you will then heal our land. Lord, I pray that you would lend this message into the right ears today, Lord, that the right people would hear this, that it would be multiplied, God, that people would feel the need to share this, that it would go viral, Lord, and that everyone who's hearing it that now has more information and more perspective, that they would be brave and courageous in their communities to share Daniela's experience, to share these messages, and to be a real impactful conservative voice in a society right now, Lord, that's being seduced by the lies of Marxism and socialism. Lord, I pray that people would stand up, that people would refuse to surrender their freedoms. And Lord, you say that what we bind on earth, you bind in heaven. So I'm going to bind this Marxism. I'm going to bind this socialism agenda in our country. And I'm going to pray that everyone listening to me binds it as well, Lord, and that it would not gain any more traction, that it would start to be pushed back, and that brave conservatives would stand up and win people back to your values, Lord. We can't beat them over the head. We know that, but we can win them to you. So I pray you give everyone wisdom. I pray you give them the right words and the right moment when they're in these conversations, that they would lead with compassion, and that, Lord, they would be successful in every conversation that they have. Pray this in your mighty name, Lord. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. Wow. It was an intense show, Daniela, but I'm really grateful. So, guys, thanks so much for watching, and spread the message, spread Daniela's message, and let's get our country back. What do you say? We'll see you back here tomorrow at 3:00.
Absolutely.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.